Valley. I have my sound again. And if I step over here, still have my background music. Alright. So, let's continue on with this apparently perilous adventure. Alright, we go up here. Train brake is an emergency. Independent is released. So we gotta rebuild air pressure. Turn the lights back on. Alright, we know this one's on, we know that one's on. We know this is now on. And both locomotives have successfully built up air pressure back into the line. So, pipe is now at normal working pressure. So, maybe, just maybe, we can start moving again. Alright, now this is not a particularly heavy set of loads, but it's heavy enough that we're gonna at least have a little bit of difficulty starting out on this hill at first. Alright, let's get that on. Okay. And we are moving again. Now, the good news is that once we get over here to the steel mill, we're already aligned to go towards the machine factory, because we backed up towards the farm in order to get a running start up at this hill so we could turn around our train coming back to the steel mill. So now, since we're already going that way, it's going to make things so much easier when we get there. And then the first problem that we're going to encounter is that area that's kind of upsetting around this corner by the by City Southwest, which has a real bad habit of breaking multiple unit locomotives. So that could be bad, or it might not make a difference in the slightest. We will wait and see. But since I've already had one catastrophic failure for the day, and it's not even related to the game, I don't have high hopes. Let's leave it at that. Or so we think. Alright. My same general rule still applies. Try to keep it around 35 going up this hill. Oh, and I guess it's not starting out, it's after you get around the first corner. That's when it goes up to 2.4%. Which, not so fun fact, that's where I had the string line derailment yesterday. Going back down the hill to the harbor. One of the cars with rails on them just jumped off the track in the middle. It was a bit of a problem, but it was easy to fix. That's weird. I don't know why I've never really noticed that before. Like there's kind of like this dingy green tint to the water down there by the harbor. So it looks like we're already heavily polluted with toxic waste, when that's just not the case. I try not to wreck things in the game, so I haven't blown anything up. I can leave that for a second. Go back here, make sure all of that's still connected. Purposes of my sanity, it's probably a good idea to not look at the MU cable. Still going up, still 40. But it shallows out, so we're not going to need all that much throttle to get up there. But that is definitely the advantage to using two locomotives, even on like a smaller job like this, because they each have a lot of pulling power. So you can keep the throttle pretty low and not burn as much diesel individually. And ideally, you can even idle. We're not idling, we're still throttling. We're still playing throttle, but we are still going uphill. Granted, we're going uphill with a rather light load, comparatively. It's like 17 cars and 2 locomotives. So this is a very easy day for the DE6s. And not even 300 tons each. Theory, I probably could have done it with 2 DE2s instead. But that wouldn't have been as cool to look at. Yeah, see, like, every inch of the valley is, like, radioactive. Or at least by movie standards, it's radioactive. For some odd reason, they always make radiation green. It has to be glowing green. I'm really excited to see the couple extra things start working in the cab. Like the ones that I'm really interested in, it's gonna sound dumb, but I'm really happy about the bell, the dynamic brake, switching this from engine temp to traction motor temp. The ammeter is actually going to start working, and then actually using the brake gauges. I'd imagine it's still kind of like a tentative, like work in progress sort of thing, but in one of the screenshots that you got like a passing glimpse at the gauges up here, I think it looked like they were still using 2 gauges instead of 4, but there were 2 needles on it. It's like there were 2 needles on each of them, so say you have the equalizing reservoir and the brake pipe, and then the main reservoir and brake cylinder. Like, I could easily see them putting that on all 4 gauges instead of just using 2 and then having these other 2 dials up here not doing anything. But at the same time, I could still see them like combining them. It would just be really weird if they left having all 4 gauges up there but only used 2 of them. Or, I mean, they already do that, but if they kept doing it that way, it would just be a little bit bizarre, in my opinion. Alright, let's knock it back a little bit. We're about to start going downhill again. Despite the fact that it's taking like a while and we had to kick some gremlins out of the stream, it's not going bad. I was really happy yesterday when I finally got the nerve to ask about the problems I've been having with the track, and then I got a response and they're like, yeah, we know about that. It's getting fixed with Simulator. So I guess put that on the list of things that are just implied and didn't need to be directly stated. Obviously, I guess optimization would kind of be like a default thing that's coming that you don't really need to ask about. Especially since by all of the media that you can read, or that you can read and watch on the simulator update, it sounds like they quite literally built the game again from the ground up. So me encountering little things about randomly derailing on the track when you're not supposed to, I could have assumed that it was just getting fixed and you didn't need to ask about it. But if you don't ask, you'll never know. So if something's bugging you and you got a question about it, say something about it. Granted, take that with a bit of an asterisk beside it, and always be polite and respectful and all of that. Don't, like, ask definitively dumb questions in the most arrogant, like, asshole way possible. Don't do that. And all in all, just have fun with it. Or playing a game. Treat it as such. Just kind of enjoy what you're doing. Can you go down here? No. And just to clarify, I wasn't asking if you could go into the bathroom or maintenance area. I was asking if you could go down on the step. Which, to be fair, with the locomotive being like a moving 3D object, they would have to have like vertices, faces, lines, boxes, hitboxes of things that you can touch and make contact with. And that little step down there is just probably more trouble than it's worth for no reward. So I can kind of understand why they wouldn't bother with that. To be honest, I don't think I would either. But the extent of what I know about making 3D models and animation, I've made things that I can print out using a 3D printer. And I made all of the models and animations that I use for my YouTube introduction and avatar. I made all of those in Blender. Now, back when I was in high school, I took a lot of drafting classes. Drafting, mechanical drawing, architectural drawing, CAD courses. Because I was really interested in that. At one point, I think I wanted to try being an engineer. But I kind of accepted that probably wasn't going to happen because there's a lot of math involved in it. And just being a chemistry major in school, all I had to do was survive Calculus 2. And that one was hard enough as it is. And then pretty much all of the engineering ones across the board went up to Calc 3. And I was really struggling with Calc 2. Now, because I was specifically a biochemistry major, at my school, it used to be a thing that you had to do Calc 3 as well. But they kind of changed the catalog a little bit, and you only had to do Calc 2. But that doesn't change the fact that I still had to successfully complete the lecture for analytical chemistry, physics, physical chemistry, biochemistry, all of those courses. So basically all the hard stuff is going to make you rip your hair out. But the kind of counterpoint to that is, even though, yes, it is the hard stuff, it's also the interesting stuff. Or at least it's interesting to me. Like, for instance, the class that I was really having a hard time with, because there's a lot of, like, theory in it, and a lot of math. So much math. Is analytical chemistry. Now, the thing with analytical chemistry is you have a compound of some kind. Could be a solid, a liquid, a gas. You just have a compound or a mixture. And you want to find out how much of a specific chemical is inside of that bigger chemical. So you have a whole bunch of laboratory experimental processes and procedures where you can do some kind of quantifiable analysis to determine how much of that chemical is in the entire substance. Like, say you want to find out exactly how much salt is in seawater. Oh, that's not a very specific question. It would be more like exactly how much specifically sodium chloride is in seawater. Stuff like that. Or if you buy a bottle of vinegar at the grocery store, you can do a experimental determination and find out exactly how much acetic acid is in your bottle of vinegar. It's not a whole lot. I want to say it's something like 20%. The rest of it's like food additives, flavoring type stuff. But the bottom line is it's not just like straight up laboratory grade acetic acid. Like a real experiment that we actually did in the lab, we had off-brand like Equate, basically Pepto-Bismol tablets, and we had to determine exactly how much bismuth, which is a heavy metal, by the way, we had to determine how much bismuth was in the tablets. And then, to make sure that we did it right, we had to compare. We had to do the titration to find out how much was in it. I think we actually had to do a back titration, so you put it into a solution, take it out of a solution, then titrate that. And then you do a couple extra steps in the calculations, and you can find out how much of the initial analyte is in the compound. And then once you get that, you check your calculated data against the actual company that makes it. You can go on their website and they'll tell you how much bismuth is in it. And since it obviously passed their quality control and got sold to the public, your calculated answer should be close to that answer, because that is considered the accepted or correct answer. And it was just really, really cool to me, because it's just like, didn't think I would be analyzing pharmaceutical drugs, but granted, that's a simple one. It's not anything crazy. It's just to settle your stomach and prevent diarrhea. It's nothing crazy. Now, the crazier one wasn't in analytical chemistry. The crazy one was actually back in organic chemistry. We had to we were learning how to synthesize things. And we started with Tylenol, acetaminophen, probably the off-brand to save money, but acetaminophen. And we were breaking it down and using it as a starting point to make a different kind of cold medicine. It's no longer allowed to be issued because it causes cancer and other fun stuff like that. But nevertheless, it was like the coolest thing ever, because I'm just a random college chemistry student in a 200 level class synthesizing medication. Granted, we weren't taking it and it wasn't being issued to anybody. In fact, it was being disposed of as contaminated waste. But that's neither here nor there. The bottom line is, sophomore level chemistry class, we're making drugs. Good times. Alright, we gotta keep an eye on our speed around here, because specifically this Y intersection that we're coming up to, it goes down to 30. So we're gonna want to slow down a little bit, because I'm starting to notice that if you're pushing 30 when you get there, that's when it's likely to break apart my locomotives here. And then it's really weird when it happens, because if they do break apart, sometimes you can use the remote and just push them back together and all is right in the world. But sometimes it's not that easy. And there's like, the only way I can explain it is if you tried to hold two magnets, like specifically the same pole of the magnet, and you tried to press them together. They're like magnetically trying to repel each other. And they don't want to go together, and you gotta like go up to like full throttle and hope you don't just like overcome the individual bump in the track, or the invisible, not individual. Dyslexia sucks. But you gotta overcome that invisible bump in the track and hope you don't just slam into whatever's behind you. Alright. So, right around when you start seeing the grass overgrown on the track, that's the area where it happens. So I think it's on the west side of the Y, not going down towards the sawmill. Alright. So, we're coming up. Only going 20 kilometers an hour. Slow and steady wins the race. Now, realistically, before I left the harbor, I could have tacked on a few more things, like, say, for instance, I know there was a logistics haul that was taking, like, 3 empty tankers back to Oil Well Central. I could have easily thrown those onto the back, but I just didn't. But it's probably for the best that I didn't, because I've already had some technical difficulties with the stream. And that would just make it run even longer. Alright, so... Alright, here's where it's overgrown. Alright, let's keep an eye out, ears open, all that fun stuff. Crossing over this switch. Alright, if we go slow enough, maybe it won't break. Alright. We might be safe. Alright. Because I know that if you slam on the brakes to get under 30 kilometers an hour, you're almost guaranteed to break the locomotives. It's weird and kind of hard to explain, but it happens. Alright, now, the good news is that we're bypassing City Southwest, so we don't gotta worry about that. And then all we gotta do is just get up to just outside of the machine factory And I'll probably have to flip the switch to go out toward the C track, because it should be aligned currently to go through towards the passenger terminals, because I turned around to go back to the service track that was over here in the roundhouse. And the way that you do that, there is a branch that goes towards the military base. You take that and then you back around, and then you back up to be facing the right direction to go into the roundhouse for refueling. And I'm gonna definitely check to see if the roundhouse at the machine factory is big enough to fit both of my locomotives. If not, there's a workaround for it. I just gotta back up 77 into a different spot. After I refuel it, and then it makes the cost a little bit higher. Yeah, I just don't like how that sounds. Yeah, when you what you do is you park this one on the track away from the roundhouse, back that one in to get it refueled. Yeah, that makes sense. You back that one in to get it refueled, pull it forward onto the turntable, back it up into a different bay, then pull this one around, back it into the roundhouse to get refueled, and then you just turn them both off when they're in the roundhouse. You run over to the station office, which is way over on the other side of the station, or way over on the other side of the yard, and you pay off the fees. And the fees are a little bit higher for the one that you have to back into the other spot away from the refueling, away from the fuel pumps, because you gotta run the engine and throttle up, idle, back up, throttle up again, back into the other spot. And you're just running the engine a couple seconds longer. But if I'm lucky, I won't have to worry about that, because I could fit both locomotives in the roundhouse at the harbor. So I can only imagine that if I could fit 2 locomotives in the shed at the steel mill, I can't imagine they would have multiple size roundhouses. So I'm thinking I'll probably be able to fit them both in there. Even if the front one has to be sticking out onto the turntable, while the back one is getting serviced. Because the machine factory is another one that's actually a pretty good size. It's not nearly as big as the harbor town, but it's a pretty good sized yard. And the fact that it also has a military base is pretty cool. Speed limit's 100, but we're currently only going 40. We can speed it up a little bit. Apparently, I was getting caught up on the videos that have been released about the simulator update, and there are a couple of points of interest on the map that I have just never seen. Like, there are parts of the track that I've never used. So there are a couple of things that, when I saw it in the video, I was just like, are we gonna talk about that? Is that in the game? Like, it was a random video. I think it was one about the physics for derailments, and in the last seconds of the video, like, the camera pans over and you see like a castle sitting up on top of a hill, and I'm just like, there's a castle? And then some people in the comment section are like, yeah, apparently it's like right here. And it's like, I don't think I've ever seen that. But, undoubtedly, if you'll remember, the only time I'm ever in this area is when I'm coming down from the military base, usually bringing like the plague cargo, and there's a tunnel right here. So the fact that there is something sitting up here on this mountain when I'm normally running through the tunnel, there's no way I would have seen that, not coming this way. You literally have to be on this track, and I've never used that track, so it's really surprising to no one that I have never seen that thing. It was just kind of funny that I seen that in an unrelated video, and I was just like, there's a castle in the valley? Learn something new every day. At first I was like, are they adding that? And then the people in the comments are like, no, they're not adding it, it's already here. You just have to go there. We're just going to say we can go 60. That sign says we can go 100, but not even 10 yards away, we can only go 60. So we're not going higher than 60. But the good news is, there's the machine factory. So we are almost there. And the cool thing about these jobs is they're literally on adjacent tracks, so we back up the rearmost one, which is this one. So, looking at the station schematic... Alright, we gotta go back ways. Okay. Yeah, the inbound tracks, they're going on these right here, so it's going all the way to the right. You pull forward towards the north end of the track, dump off that right by the sign for 4 inbound, then you pull forward towards the north end, and you back up into 3. Alright. Huh. Good news. We're already lined up to go that way. But, since this is a bit of a hill, let's grab this, shove that right there, grab this. Let's jump out here. Oh, that's not good. This isn't paired anymore. I guess in the process of the game crashing, Steam VR crashing, basically everything just got all messed up. Oh yeah, C, B, or D? No, that's B. Then where's A? Maybe the A is the military base? Who knows? Okay, so this is going on to 4I, which is this track right there. I got a train around here somewhere. There it is. Alright, let's slow it down. It's mostly flat through the yard, so that makes your life a little bit easier. What's going to be interesting is the process to get turned around. Because there is not much room over here. Like, your best option, there's a track that branches off so that you can come around that way and come into here. But that's just a... Yeah. Okay, so you go this way, and you cross over right here. You run back towards the military base, and then you go that way. It's a convoluted process, but it works. Although, I could make my life so much easier if I just go back here and I line the back car up with this sign instead of the trying to get the front car lined up with that sign. This way I'll just make my life a lot easier. Then all I gotta do is just check off the cars that go down the line. And yeah, this is for inbound. All right. Oh, nope, too soon. Messed that up. Because we still got 2/3 of a car to clear the sign. Oh, that was bad. Nope, gotta speed it up again. Alright, that's random. That's weird. Yeah, it decided we're going to just abruptly get a lot faster. 560, 253, 429, 319, 160, 162, and 427. Alright, so this is the last car for this section. Okay. I don't need to be on this side, I need to be on that side. Since we've already, like, overshot the, since we've overshot the, time bonus by, like, hours at this point, I'm just gonna turn them in at the same time. Oh, and I had like another 2-3 car lengths. So we were doing fine on space. But it makes sense that the shorter train would go to that track. It makes more sense to put bigger trains on tracks with more space. And those are tractors, so they're probably going to the farm. Yeah, that's a B4 outbound. Yeah, one of the drums in the background music sounded eerily like the pinging of something derailing, which would be a really bizarre thing to happen at the moment. Alright, so there's the sign for 3. It's in the same place as the sign for 4. And there's one of those bumps in the track. Because it like started to slow down, then you hit the throttle and kind of speed it up, and it quickly decides, alright, I guess we're stopping now. Or I guess it like has like this rubber banding thing where it like momentarily starts accelerating. All right. All right. Let's get this removed. Okay. Now the station is right here. Alright. And we're golden. No damage. No damage. Alright, all is right in the world. Alright, now... No, we don't need to stand on the table. We need this thing. And this thing. Yeah, see? Going to the farm. So that's pretty cool. Oh, and then how much do you want to bet that that's 41? That's probably on the B track next to the, let's see. Alright, we know that one's going to the farm. This is 5 out. Yeah, 41. So if we did decide to get those, they're right next to each other on the B lot. 6,000 kilograms. 6,000 kilograms. Alright, so it would be the same either way. The jobs don't pay very well, but at least the weight's the same. Alright, so let's get spun around. Although, one that might pay pretty well is if there's one going to the harbor from here. Yeah. This is ammunition. So, hazmat 3, military 2. Okay, see, that would actually make it worthwhile. Let's see what this weighs. Dear God. Alright, these would have to be up front. Alright. It does not want to cross that spot in the track. And now it just rubber banded and just like took off like a rocket. Oh, actually, that simplifies our problem. Alright, check it out. We're gonna grab this right here. We're going to put this in. I mean, it doesn't matter. But we're currently facing this direction, right? So we go over here. Go to this switch right here. Flip this switch. Alright, go back over here. Alright, it was stupid to flip it too soon. That's my fault. Alright, so what we're going to do is back up and go into the military base, pick up the ammunition cars, pull them out of the military base along the Y going towards the passenger terminal. We dump off the ammunition cars next to the passenger terminal. Pro tip, do not do that with ammunition. That's not at all safe or legal. Like, you can... Now, my only experience is with trucks. But the short version is, under no circumstances do you leave explosives unattended outside of a designated safe haven. And in this specific case, the designated safe haven is the military base. So you leave the ammunition in there until after these are refueled. And then you back up and go get them. But we're trying to save time. So basically we're making some bad, definitely 100% illegal decisions. But safety third in Derail Valley. And these are heavy. Alright. Yeah. Explosives. You don't leave Class 1 anything just chilling in an area that's accessible to the public. Because the whole thing behind why it requires so much scrutiny to get a hazardous materials endorsement as a truck driver is because they are prime targets for terror attacks. And quite literally giving anybody that wants to hurt a lot of people immediate access to literal bombs would generally be seen as a bad idea. And that is why you do not do what we are currently doing in real life. At an absolute minimum, this is a really good way to get arrested. Alright, let's notify the nice people of the valley that we're about to do some shady stuff. Actually, we need to flip this switch because we're heading that way now. What's that sound? And then we'll get the and we'll get those right now, just to get it out of the way. Freight haul, freight haul. Alright, we're going to the harbor and the farm. So since these are both the same weight, the one going to the farm is going to be at the very back of the train. So 41's in the middle, 27 is at the back. Alright, so this is going right there, and that's going in there. Okay. Now, let's put our care package from hell right here in the passenger terminal. Okay, so it's not going to be directly in the passenger terminal. In fact, let's bring it I mean, realistically, this is probably the better alternative if we're making questionable decisions. But for convenience sake, we're not going to leave them right there. We're going to park them over here by what looks like a gas pipe going into the roundhouse. Let's just break every safety regulation we've got. Why? Because hashtag YOLO. Alright, so we need to leave enough space that if we need to, we can pull the lead locomotive off of the trailing locomotive and back them into the roundhouse separately. So probably the best place to do it is... Why are we looking that way? I don't know why I did it that way. Alright, so let's get... That's going to the passenger terminal. I mean, if we want to keep it so that it's not fouling the switch, we can just dump them off right here. I mean, it's fouling that switch, but this is a disastrous class action lawsuit in the making anyway. Nope, put that back. No, I need this thing to go right there. Okay, so we have our ticking time bomb in place. Now let's roll forward. Yeah, I really don't know what's going on with that. Like, I would never intentionally go to the passenger terminal. Unless I was just arbitrarily flipping switches the last time I was here. Which, to be honest, I don't really do that either. Alright, now the thing about this area is that's downhill past the switch going over towards B and C. And I guess if we need to, the second locomotive will fit right there. Alright, let's teleport over here real quick. And it's gonna be tight, but let's see if we can make it work. All right. Let's speed it up a little bit. What might cause a problem is if it's too far forward, or if it's too far back. Okay. Oh, no. Put that on reverse. Yeah, this is probably not going to work. Alright. Let's turn this off. Let's just start at the back. We did use half the tank of diesel getting here, which is not making our maintenance costs any cheaper. Apparently the wheels actually getting damaged does something. Like it actually serves a purpose. Alright, I'm not thinking this is gonna work. I think it's too far in. If we can get the back of that locomotive onto that pad, just can't. Alright, so change of plans. We're gonna back up the trailing locomotive in front of this DE2. Yeah, if the service pad wasn't so far in, it would have worked. If it was closer to the door, like it is at the harbor, we wouldn't have had any problems. Actually, what we should do, instead of backing it up there, instead, we're going to back it straight back up to the ammunition cars. That way they're not technically unattended. I mean, they'll still be unattended because I won't be physically in it, but we can see them. Yeah, that's one of those things that you don't do that. The rule is quite literally black and white. Do not leave explosives unattended in anywhere that is not a explicitly designated safe haven. And we've directly taken them out of the safe haven and parked them right next to something that's sensitive that could probably explode. Basically, this whole operation is all messed up, and our safety record is going all to hell. We are inevitably going to be shut down. But safety third in the valley. If you asked me what the other two things were, I don't know if I could remember. Okay. Alright. That's... Well, this is going to be interesting. There we go. Okay. Okay, now unpair that. Let's get up here, pair this, and disconnect this. Well, since we've already skipped doing it the safe and legal way, this is probably the least illegal way we can do this. That's always a good metric to use. This is the least bad way. When we had the good way, we could have done, it just would have taken a couple seconds longer. But why do it that way when I can take the time to explain why what we're doing in the game would not fly in real life? Now we back up into the roundhouse, refuel this one, run over, pay our fees, and probably stop there, because between this stream and the earlier one that was kind of a disaster, that's probably enough for this one. And then I'll have these set up so that I already know what jobs I'm working on when I pick this up later. Good. Remove that. Turn off that. Put that away. And let's go in here. Already got that picked up. Kill the engine. And kill the electricity. But yeah, if these consoles were here instead, it would have worked. But the good news is, with multiple unit servicing coming with simulator update, I won't have to worry about it either way, because we can have locomotives back parked here all the way back to City Southwest, and we can still refuel them. All we gotta do is just plug in the hose to whichever one fits in the roundhouse and go from there. $95.03. Alright, so we have 2 receipts. Run over to the station office. I think there's a dumpster between here and there. If anybody ever asks why we have so many regulations about safety, bear this one cautionary statement in mind. Our regulations are written in blood. The reason we have them is because something at some point has gone horribly wrong, and it hurt a lot of people. So we have to get more rules telling us not to do certain things. It's like the most subtle thing, but it's kind of cool that in all of the updated pictures and videos about Simulator, they're making it so that quite literally everything has that little D on it. So it's branded. And it's like the smallest, most unnecessary thing. But I love that. Alright. So, let's see. How much money do we have, just for the sake of argument? We're almost up to 1.2 million. So, in spite of everything, we are still managing to make a profit. So, let's quickly go line up to get to the B track. So we go over to here. And we need this switch aligned to B. And then we need this track. And that's a storage track, but it's probably better as a runaround. Nope. Yeah, B5. Alright. Alright, so we now have everything lined up. That's the quote-unquote main line for this track. Alright, so everything is configured to pick up the intermodal containers right there, and then the tractors right there, and then we pull out of here and head south down toward City Southwest, back these up at the farm, and then go on to the military base, where probably the best course of action would be to uncouple these, or no, not uncouple those, uncouple the intermodal flat cars just outside of town and back these into the military base to get them out of the way. Then hook back up to the intermodals and get them over to the D track and wrap it up that way. That's probably the best course of action. Alright. So So let me turn my little watch off right here. Get that back to 12. You don't use it to tell time, you use it as a stopwatch. It's like the most absurd thing. And double check the chat room, see if anybody's doing anything. Not at the moment. Alright. Put those away. And that's as good of a place to stop